Imagine this. Dr. Seward arrived home to find Lord Godalming and Quincy P. Morris already deep in thought, poring over those compiled diaries and letters. Mina Harker, with her husband Jonathan still out, kindly offered them tea, and for Dr. Seward, it made the house feel like a true home, perhaps for the very first time. Then, after their tea, Mina shared something exciting. She was super keen to meet Dr. Seward's patient, Mr. Renfield, because his story in the diary transcripts was just so fascinating to her. Dr. Seward leads Mina Harker to meet the curious Mr. Renfield. But just before Mina steps in, Renfield, quick as a wink, gobbles up all the flies and spiders in his boxes, afraid they'd be taken. Mina greets him with such grace and a warm smile, but Renfield, after a long, searching look, asks if she's the woman Dr. Seward once hoped to marry, believing that lady was no longer alive. Mina quickly clarifies she is Mrs. Harker, married to Jonathan, and just visiting Dr. Seward. Then, Renfield reveals an unexpected deep side, discussing how asylum inmates often see the world all wrong, and even sharing his old strange belief about living longer by consuming living things, even admitting he once tried to harm Dr. Seward. Dr. Seward zipped away, leaving Lord Godalming and Quincy P. Morris at home, all set to meet Professor Van Helsing at the station. He couldn't help but notice that Arthur and Quincy seemed so much brighter, more cheerful than they had since Lucy Westenra's terrible illness. And then Professor Van Helsing arrived, practically bouncing with boyish eagerness, giving Dr. Seward such a warm greeting and happily confirming he was staying. As they drove back, Dr. Seward excitedly filled the professor in on all the recent events, especially mentioning Mina Harker's invaluable help with the records. Just before dinner, Professor Van Helsing, with a twinkle in his eye, shared his deep admiration for Mina Harker's brilliant mind and kind heart. But then, with a serious look, he gently insisted she couldn't be part of their perilous hunt for the monster anymore, believing the men had to face such danger all by themselves to keep her safe. Mina, her cheeks a lovely pink, then shyly offered up her own journal entry from the day, wondering if it should join their important records. Van Helsing, with a warm smile, urged her to include it, knowing it would only make her husband love her even more and her friends admire her all the deeper. Just 2 hours after dinner, everyone gathered in Dr. Seward's study, forming a very serious group. Professor Van Helsing took charge, explaining all about their terrifying vampire enemy, Count Dracula. He shared old stories and what they'd seen themselves, describing Dracula as incredibly strong, super clever, and with amazing powers like changing shape and commanding animals. But Van Helsing also told them Dracula had weaknesses. He couldn't come into a house unless invited, lost power in the daytime, and hated holy things like crucifixes and garlic. And guess what? Van Helsing thought Dracula was probably the ancient voivode Dracula, a mighty warrior from long ago whose old clever mind was now set against them. Wow! While Professor Van Helsing spoke, Jonathan Harker gently took Mina's hand, offering quiet comfort. After the professor finished, Jonathan bravely spoke for both himself and Mina, pledging their full commitment, and Quincy P. Morris and Lord Godalming also declared their resolve. Lord Godalming especially for dear Lucy, with Dr. Seward nodding in agreement. Together they formed a solemn compact, holding hands tightly around Van Helsing's special crucifix. Suddenly, bam! A pistol shot crashed through the window. Quincy P. Morris burst back in, quickly apologizing for the scare, explaining he'd shot at a huge bat right on the windowsill. Professor Van Helsing, ever so serious, continued, reminding everyone that Mina absolutely must be kept safe from all the scary dangers of their important mission. Quincy P. Morris burst forth with a plan, insisting they must rush to Dracula's eerie house, Carfax, right away. Mina Harker's heart gives a little flutter at the scary danger ahead, but she keeps quiet, not wanting to be left out if she seems afraid. The men, even Jonathan, look so relieved to keep Mina safe, telling her to go to bed. But Mina decides she'll just pretend to sleep, knowing she can't truly rest while her loved ones face such big danger. And off they go, heading for Carfax. Just as Dr. Seward and his friends were ready to dash off to Carfax, a super urgent message burst in. It was from Mr. Renfield, insisting he must see Dr. Seward right away. And the worried attendant warned he was acting extra pushy and might even throw a terrible fit if ignored. Dr. Seward knew this was serious business, so he agreed to go, asking everyone else to just hold on a moment. But Professor Van Helsing, Lord Godalming, Quincy P. Morris, and Jonathan Harker were all super curious and wanted to come along. Dr. Seward said yes, and off they went, following him down the hallway to Renfield's mysterious room. Wow! In Renfield's room, the group found him incredibly clear-headed and smart, pleading to be let out of the asylum right away, saying his mind was totally fixed. Dr. Seward, for a moment, actually believed him and introduced Renfield to his friends, who were met with amazing politeness and intelligence, even praise for Van Helsing's brilliant work. But despite this impressive display, Dr. Seward remembered Renfield's past wildness and decided to wait. Oh no! Renfield grew desperately frantic, collapsing into tearful pleas to be saved from some mysterious wrong. And as Dr. Seward sternly ended the visit, Renfield quietly insisted he had done everything he could to convince them.